I'm so excited to be here tonight, and tonight is very, very special because it's part of a weekend celebration of the opening of the exhibition Rose B. Simpson, Journeys of Clay. So tonight you'll get the first sneak peek at the exhibition directly following this talk. And I will just give you a note that if we all go into the gallery at once, they are managing the numbers in the gallery, so you might have to wait a minute or two, but it's worth it. So I do encourage you to go see the show after this. So this exhibition is the 9th iteration of our Recognition of Art by Women series. And what this series is, it's a series that honors an artist, a single female identifying artist, who is practicing either sculpture or painting. And we've kind of done that for this exhibition. In a way, we pushed the limits a bit. For this exhibition, we decided to expand beyond the viewpoint of looking at one woman's practice. And we invited Rose's mother, Roxanne Swentzell, to present her work alongside Rose. And additionally, we have included vessels from Rose's grandmother, Rena Swentzell, and great-grandmother, Rose Naranjo. So it's a very special experience to be able to view one artist's work through the lens of her matrilineal makers and her legacy. Rose B. Simpson is an artist. She is a mother, and she is the daughter of a matrilineal line of ceramicists and potters spanning nearly 70 generations. You heard me right. Perhaps she's best known for her ceramic work, but facets like performance, drawing, creative writing, dance, design, automotive repair are all markers on Rose's creative course line. She's one of the most creatively inspiring humans that I've ever encountered. She's keenly self-aware. She is deeply emotional, playful, confident, and she's down. She's down for adventure, and she's down for an experience. Rose's clay figures are more than just profound objects and feats of ceramic engineering, but they're tools. They're tools for how to navigate through life. As you explore the exhibition, you'll notice motifs and adornments on the figures. These markings signal guidance, protection, longevity, wayfinding, upward mobility, and growth. The exhibition Rose B. Simpson is a survey-style exhibition. So for this project, we've gone and mined the last 10 years of her practice, and we're presenting them here in our galleries. So for the first time, works from disparate moments of her career in the last 10 years are coming together in conversation. She's greatly influential to Rose's practice, has been her mother, Roxanne Swentzell, who is a prolific artist, and her expressive sculptures are representations of social commentary, womanhood, love, and loss, and whose poetic phrase is actually the source of our exhibition. The exhibition is titled Journeys of Clay, and it aptly describes the exhibition viewing experience as the work of Rose is presented in concert with her family, and it underscores the expansive artistic legacy of these empowered, talented, and influential women in orbit with Rose. I'd like to just quickly take a moment to thank everyone who made this exhibition possible. Thank you first and foremost to the artwork lenders and to the exhibition donors. Without you, we wouldn't be here today. Thank you to Jessica Silverman Gallery, here, our liaison and our representative, Catherine Wade. Thank you to Jack Shaman Gallery, again, Jackie Aletto. They have been dynamic collaborators throughout this exhibition. Without them, we wouldn't have gotten as far as we've gotten, and the publication, which I'd like to show off for a second, would not be here. So thank you to them. Overall, the show is a product of collective energies. Every single person in this museum had something to do with this exhibition, from fundraising and our development team to our install team to registrars, making sure the work got here safely, and now to visitor services and security, to making sure that the experience is wonderful for our visitors and it's safe. Overall, I'd like to also make a special acknowledgement to Pamela Solaris. Pamela is the Sophie Davis Fellow for IDEA, and she's been my right-hand woman and teammate throughout this process. And she managed the publication of Rose B. Simpson Journeys of Clay, and her work shines bright in the form of photography and writing here. So I encourage you to pick up a copy. There are some advanced copies available at the bookstore today, and then in the coming weeks, we'll have more available. At the Norton, we believe that our galleries are comfortable spaces for cross-generational conversations and interactions. And the presentation of Rose's work exemplifies this mission. And I appreciate you being here with me and taking the Norton into the future. So thank you. So now we're going to do a presentation of Roxanne's work, and then Rose will present, and then Pamela and I will ask a few questions, and then we'll answer your questions. So thank you so much, and welcome. Okay. All right, Roxanne, it's all you. You.
Hello, everybody. I'm Roxanne Swentzell, Rose's mom. I just want to thank you, Arden, for making this show an incredible specimen of, I've never seen Rose's artwork shown so beautifully. And Norton, congratulations for doing such a great job on displaying this incredible show. Okay, so who am I? I am Rose's mom. Besides Rose's mom, I am also an artist. I am a sculptor, I'm a potter, I'm a farmer, I'm many things, but I want to talk about our journey in clay. It goes way back, as Arden had said, about many generations of women working with clay. In this picture is me, Rose, and my mother. The figure is of depicting Mother Earth, releasing all the children of the earth. And really, that's how, we all began. It's like, I can't claim pottery to myself, nor can my mother or her mother. It goes all the way back to our original mother. So here's to moms. So as Rose's mother, I gave birth to her. And here's a piece we did together, and this is my portion of the piece. So since this is a show of Rose, we might as well talk about Rose's beginnings. Rose's beginnings happen inside of me. So I get to claim that. We decided to redo our birth experience once by creating a piece that would reenact the birth of Rose by trying to heal some hardships through it. She was a cesarean birth, and it was a hard birth, and so we wanted to try recreating this. I made the mom, she made the baby that goes inside the mom. Lo and behold, my piece fell apart. Rose's baby survived it, but we found a lot of healing in the actual making of the piece and going through the motions of recreating. So that's one beginning of us story. I put this picture in as a way to show how these figures that we create are formed. They're actually pots. They're like pinch pots or hollow vessels. And the little girl in the left side is actually Cedar Rain, Rose's daughter, playing with clay next to one of my pieces I'm working on, a large figure. But this is very much a scene of Rose's childhood and of my childhood and my mother's childhood, and so on and so on. So you can get the idea of how, we've been creating out of clay while our children sit around and play also. And a lot of our clay is also dug actually right out of hillsides and valleys. This is Rose digging some clay out in the land near where we live. So we are very familiar with the landscape and the process of clay. And making, these figures is passing it on to the next generation. So we are very aware of not living in a vacuum. We are from somewhere. And as coming from somewhere, we are handed what we are handed, each one of us, whether we're aware of it or not. And so to actually think about that consciously is kind of a remembering to be grateful for what is given to us, and then also being aware that it's your responsibility to then pass on the good things on to the next generation. So one of the things I'm known for as a ceramic person is hands and feet and expressions. Put this one in just because it's so gooey with with emotional feet and hands. I'm known for expression that came from a childhood where I couldn't speak very well, and so I used working with clay and making clay figures to speak for me. They were my first language. And so hands and feet and facial expressions became a really good tool to express, a 3-year-old's emotions about, I'm hungry, I'm tired, mommy, pay more attention to me, all childhood feelings that kept growing and evolving into an adult, I'm tired, I'm hungry, mommy, please pay attention to me. But it's a way of expression. I'm also known for a lot of my emotional pieces because they came from a need of communication. As a child, most of the communication we tend to have as children are very emotional. And I believe that encouraged me to learn a language of emotion. I made this piece after my mother passed, and she's holding 2 ghosts. Those are my father and my grandma, and she became an ancestor too. And so it was me dealing with losing my mother, and now she is an ancestor, a spirit. I also deal a lot with soul searching. This Cosa or Pueblo clown is taking off his stripes to look at what's underneath, a reminder for us all to look deeper within and find out what's underneath the surface of everything. This one's called Fine Tuning. I put it in just because it made me laugh when I saw it again. And I thought, okay, this is typical of my work also, of playing around with images that might encourage us to fine tune ourselves a little bit. He's doing his brainwave gadgets there, knobs, to try to get the right reception for his own self. But you could take that wherever you want. Some of my well-known pieces. This piece is Mudwoman Roseanne from the Denver Art Museum. She's a very large figure of a mom holding 4 clay babies on her lap. It's all made out of dried mud. So it's not even fired, it's just mud, dried mud, and the colors are the different pigments of earth that I found driving back and forth from New Mexico to Denver. And those became the babies, representing all the people of the world and how we come in many shapes and colors. And the Big Mama is our Big Mama Earth. This shows you the size of her. That's me working on her face. So you could see I'm working on the eyes, so it's mostly straw and mud. So you can visualize that again, how big that is. Another piece I'm known for is a piece at the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian. It's a wall piece of the theater building, bronze relief, showing a kind of a mutual general concept that tribes have in common, which is the directional, respecting directions, and also the balance between all things, trying to find a good middle ground that we walk in balance, in beauty, in harmony. And another thing I'm known for is staying close to the earth. I usually come with dirty hands and feet because I'm usually building something, working with clay, gardening, building with adobe. And so this one's called Strong Heart. In our language, instead of saying somebody has a heart of gold, you say that they have a heart of earth. That's the highest praise. So this one's called Strong Heart because she has a heart of earth. She's touching the earth close. And in our dance of life, as we, get held up by our parents, and then we have children and we hold them up, and then they have children and they hold them up. We kind of do this dance of helping each other out in wonderful, wonderful ways. And actually coming here to the Norton is an interesting dynamic because in this sculpture, I'm holding up one of the many children I hold up. But during this visit, I feel held up by Rose, my daughter. Love you, Rose. Thank you.
I'm over here laughing because she's making me cry, and I'm supposed to talk to you now. But it's good. This is the good stuff. This is the good stuff. That's me. Hi, everyone. I'm Rose B. Simpson. I'm happy to be here. It's my first time in Florida. I'm here with my mom and my daughter and my new friends, it's Arden and Pamela and my squad, Jackie and Catherine. I have such an incredible support system and community that I'm so grateful for. And to see my work in this museum has been absolutely incredible because it's, I feel seen, I feel honored, and I feel, I was telling Arden, I walked into the show and my body had an effect of all the hard work that I put into it. My body remembered all those pieces and the actual physical and psychological labor that goes into bringing those pieces into existence. And it was like, I could feel it almost traumatized, right? Because I've been working really hard and I've worked really hard. And yet I walked around and I felt the medicine from those pieces come back to me in a different way, to have them go away and then come back and teach me again is a really incredible feeling. And I feel like I'm being healed by them and taught by them again as well. And so I'm really grateful for this experience to come back and see them all in relation again. But we'll talk more about that, right? But again, thank you for this day. Thank you for another day. Thank you for all the food that we're given to nourish and sustain us, all the plants and animals that give their life so that we can be here every day. I give thanks for so much. I give thanks for the capacity to give thanks because it's so easy to forget, and I am grateful for being reminded to be grateful. This is me working. This is that process. I like this picture because Manish, the photographer, sort of caught me in that moment of relationship with the piece, right? And I spend a lot of my time in relationship with clay. And I was given this by my mother, was given this by her mother. And it is a relationship. Clay is not an object. It's not a resource. It is family. It is someone I know. It is a friend. It is a confidant. It is that which saves my life over and over again, and that which I owe so much to. And so I feel like I am in relationship with clay, and that clay becomes beings and reflects myself right back to me and teaches me again and again what I'm looking for. And so my job is to listen. These are some of my more recent pieces. One of them is in the show. Reception is on the left, and it is closing its eyes, and it's listening, and it's catching information on a different level. And I feel like my work is about finding. It's about wayfinding truth, wayfinding my way to new awareness, to give me comfortable and loving avenues through deep discomfort, ways to find my way back to myself. And like in this piece here on the right, to figure out what my heart's desire truly is. Because I think that if we use our minds and we use what we've been told, we're often misled. And so I think if I close my eyes and I stop doing and I start just being, then I can be more aware of what is, and then I can find my way in a much better and clearer manner. I really like to use this slide whenever I'm putting myself in context, because I sometimes forget that how much I believe I was raised to see the world in metaphor and pattern. And so this is a drawing I did on the right for Chaco Culture National Historic Park for one of their festivals they had. And the photo on the left is of a wall at Aztec Ruins National Monument. And what's interesting about the photo is that there is actually a blue line of rocks that was set into the wall, and it was plastered over. And so you wouldn't have seen this blue line of rocks, but it was there nonetheless. And to me, it represented intention, that what we put into something is deep with intention, whether you see it or not. And so on the right, we see it's a portrait of that wall, but it's a portrait of the metaphor, it's a portrait of the pattern, it's the portrait of the context. You have the rings of the wood in the center that turns into the spinning cosmos. You have the fields, the planting. You have the walls of the building, the recessed rooms that go deeper and deeper into space. You have the comets. You have the implications of time with the solar daggers. Everything is spinning, and this is the world in the multidimensional context that we're not always fully aware of. And so what I try to show this is to demonstrate that my work is about the intention that I'm putting into it to sort of wayfind through this really, really, really incredibly dynamic. And the more we understand exactly how dynamic this reality is, the simpler and simpler it gets. And we go all the way back to this very, very, very simple and present moment where that truth and that wayfinding is actually incredibly easy when we're in an alignment with a place that seems really inaccessible mostly, but actually is right there. On the left is a piece called Heights. And this one is about, I think I'm often trying to gain perspective. And just like my mom's piece where she's holding the little guy up on the shoulders and it's getting to see higher, it's like, how can I grow my awareness to be able to comprehend something that has seemed above my comprehension, right? And so often, how are we building these antennas of awareness that reach from different parts in ourselves? I'm often thinking about the direction of the heart or the gut versus the direction of the mind. And so often those things spin in. And then how are we taking agency with that knowledge? How are we taking the awareness that we are gleaning and turning it into a tool to transform our reality for the better? Once we know where we're going and we understand what's happening, and we can simplify it down and start moving with intention. You'll probably see in my show that in the past 10 years I've done a lot of change, and you might see that in my work, the transformation in my work. And this piece I put into this slide because I wanted to talk a lot about how I changed from sort of an external and aggressive way of transforming the world. Like, I have these powerful tools and I'm going to transform them, and the more, bags of stuff I have and objects of power, then I can transform my reality. And more I started realizing that it's actually about this level of being and about of self-worth and of adorning oneself and holding oneself in a state of beauty and power. And it's a different way of approaching the world. It transforms from outward to deeply inward. And my work started getting necklaces, lots and lots of pretty necklaces that have, where I started looking at what is delicious and what is aesthetic and how is aesthetic informed by truth and deep truth. And that deliciousness is what actually guides us through the world. If we can deconstruct what delicious has been and sit with it long enough to let it teach us actually where to go and how to be. And so this is an example of some natural materials in the world that are reminders of true sense of aesthetic empowerment. And with that, we are guided. We have the support of new perspectives. And then we know what to do with that. The piece on the right was supposed to be really small. I make drawings of my work because there's a lot of engineering that goes into it. And the drawing was going to be about 3-4 feet tall, tops. And it ended up about 9 feet tall. And I think it was trying to teach me something. Maybe we'll skip that slide. No. And it's sort of like letting it fall. It's letting go. It's releasing. And so, you'll also see in the show that there's a lot of scale variations. And the scale often, I think, is teaching me about intimacy, innocence, but also power and the monumental voice of some challenges that I have to get through and learn. And in the end, it really is about our role in relationship. And the piece on the left was made before I was a mother, before I was a parent. And I often thought about the small being as oneself, and that we're nurturing, we're growing, we're helping our child self. And when I had a child, I realized it's all the same. It's actually the same thing, that in order to be a good guide, I have to nurture and support that small self within me. And so when I include smaller figures, because it's tradition in my family, I do that. Like, I was taught that figures in interaction have a strong sign, have a lot to say, express something so familiar, conjure an empathic response, that I often return to this stylistic tool. I like to show what's inside. This is an installation I did at the Fabric Workshop and Museum, and we created a whole house with all these rooms, and you actually move through the rooms inside the walls. And I wanted it to feel like we're moving around from inside, and we're seeing how things are made. I leave the fingerprints. I want you to see the color of the clay. I want you to know what it's made of truly, and not cover up the roots of something. And I included this because I really love the catalog and how the binding is showing, and in that we see how things are made. Because if we have compassion and understanding for how things are made, then maybe we can have compassion and understanding for the processes inside of us and each other, and have more compassion and humanity for the world around us as we learn to become, as we're becoming, constantly becoming. Fun fact, I used to be in a lot of music, including punk rock bands. There was an intimacy in performance that I felt was really raw and honest, and I can't seem to let it go. So I keep returning to this idea of an aesthetic experience or transformation. And so instead of performing, I like this idea of transforming. So we're creating a moment where not only the viewer, but also the performer, the transformer, is being completely changed by this experience, and that nothing will ever be the same afterwards. And so how do you create those parameters to make change inside oneself? And oftentimes it's something that's kind of scary, and you get nervous, like me walking up to this podium and my heart's kind of beating, and then I come up here and I go, what am I learning from this? And if I get through it, then I have grown and I have learned something new. And it looks different, and I've been working with people who have been incredible to work with. If it's dance, if it's fashion, if it's adornment, if it's cars. This is a 1985 Chevy El Camino named Maria, who is painted after who is our traditional pottery from my area, is oftentimes carbon reduced so that it's a deep black color. And in the Pueblo of San Ildefonso, Maria Martinez was instrumental in creating the black on black design technique that you will see demonstrated here at the museum. I went to school for auto body because I wanted to go really fast. I was studying relational aesthetics and performance art, and I realized I was trying to deconstruct how art is separate than life, and life is actually conscious aesthetic choices that we're constantly making. The more conscious we are in those choices, then the more innovative and creative and in control of our creative expression in the life that we have anyways. So I went to school for automotive science, which is collision repair. In my town is lowrider school, and I painted this car. I did all the body work on it. I painted it, and it's been sort of this. It was used because I wanted to have this transformative experience of being behind the wheel of this car, which was going to transform me, and it has been I don't like the word tool, but she has been a participant in many performances, transformances. She's also an active member of the Española car community. She's currently at North Carolina Museum of Art, and I'm in relationship with this car. She is a character. Let's talk about it if you ever want to. But what I wanted to sort of talk about is the stars. These are stars. The plus signs are stars. And the reason that I like to use the plus sign for stars, which is not only sort of an ancestral sign, but it's also the direction. So it's north, south, east, and west, right? And the stars being guidance. Like if you look up and you observe the contextual field and you understand who you are, you're so tiny, but you're also on this Mother Earth. We are being held in layers and layers, but also we have direction. We know where up and down is. You know when you land, you can figure out where north and south is. You'll find your way if you understand how to find yourself in context. And so the star is always bringing us back to context, bringing us back to wayfinding, remembering why we're here at all. Right? It might not be about waking up every morning and doing the same old thing. It's about looking and searching, even if it's searching deep, deep into silence. That searching is always there, and it's the reminder of to me, the very reason we're here and the joy itself of existence. And to me, each and every one of those things is its way back to what love really is and what it looks like. And that's what I'm doing. And this is baskets. They were these sort of paper bowls that we created to mimic these baskets. They were hung from the ceiling at the fabric workshop. They are now in different places, but we're going to use this as the context for our conversation. Thank you.
No. Oh, yes. That was lovely. It's an honor to share the stage with you women tonight. And God, there's so much to say. I'm imagining that Jody's iPad is, it's past its limit, its capacity of data storage at this point, with all the questions that this conversation has generated. But thinking about our exhibition, Journeys of Clay, how does it feel for both of you to see this grouping of works in conversation with each other? For the first time, this decade of work that we're exploring, but also you, Roxanne. There's Holding Myself Together is from 1988. And it's here in conversation with the mask that you just made this year. So, I want to know how you feel about seeing these works, talking to each other, and then talking with the works of your mother and your grandmother and Rose.
Yeah, thank you, Arden. How do I feel about them being displayed together? It's really actually refreshing to see art in context more of where it originated from. And of course, Rose is a unique, wonderful artist in her own right, but she didn't come out of nowhere. So it's nice to see the context of who handed her that clay, and then who handed the next one that clay, and so on and so on. So this show is nice that way in giving it a context. And then also being able to look at them in the same space lets you see the similarities and the differences, which is not often seen within an art show. So I think that's really cool.
We'll share. We can share. I really like to see character, and I feel like our inherent inner selves show up in clay. I like clay because it records truth in a way that other materials don't necessarily, right? And so, my great-grandma's pot and my grandma's pot, they're precious because these people have passed, and they are them, right? They're so them. And I think seeing my mom's work and knowing what about her I love and what about those pieces is so uniquely this wonderful person, and seeing how that is expressed in a life lived, right? And the clay, it records it and it shows it. And not only is it that person, but also the life, the transformation of life and the evolution. And I think, looking at my own work, I see that evolution. And I see where I missed something too, right? Like I walked into the show and I saw Please Hold, and I was like, did not get that message. And I still need to get this message and sit with this piece, But I see people who care and cared. I see people that dedicated themselves to this relationship, and you see the style, I think, of nurturing of all of us, and what nurturing sort of looks like, because those pots are nurtured into being just like a human. And so the way that we do this is exhibited. That makes sense?
We're going to be going back and forth with this mic. So in the catalog, there's a really beautiful interview that both of you have with Beata Sosipena, and you talk about how your works are witnesses. So all of these works have their eyes open, and you fill them with intention, and they go out into the world, and they're looking at a world filled with so many different things, so many good things, so many not so good things, and they're witnessing. And we're looking at these works, but I would love to know, what do you think your works are witnessing when they see the faces in the galleries here or across the country? And what do you think they're seeing and feeling?
I love that question. I believe that if we as humans didn't objectify the world around us, we wouldn't need art. Because, or the type of art I think that I'm doing necessarily for myself, is that we forget that we're being seen, watched, witnessed by everything around us all the time. That which we can see, that which we can't see, and that we've made so much and judged things as inanimate, when actually I believe there's more consciousness in the world than we want to believe. Because when there's no consciousness in something, we can abuse it, we can use it, we can gobble it up, and we don't care how it feels because it didn't have feelings, right? And so when we take a piece of earth and we form it into a face, and then we make it hollow, and we fill that hollowness with that love and that intention, and then we cut the eyes into it, and then there's a space inside that is watching us. And all of a sudden, I want to believe, because I feel it when I look at them, that I'm being seen by that work. That there is a mutual witnessing. I'm not the only one watching here. That there is, there's a moment we're having, connection. I mean, I grew up in a house where there was all these figures around, and they were watching for sure. And so I knew the power that these beings held, the space that they held. That when you imbue a feeling into that sculpture, it's holding that feeling for its entire life. And that is a huge responsibility that you're putting into that piece. So be careful what you're doing, because it goes further than we think. And I think that, we often forget that there is consciousness, or even if it's ghosts, right? And I love that piece with the ghosts, the loving of the ghosts, because it's like, I really believe that if we start paying attention with a different sense system, that we can start being aware of that which we have judged to be inanimate. I would love to believe that the pieces are watching me, I'll just use myself, get uncomfortable. I think when I stand in front of my piece and I go, oh, I missed that. Like, we'll talk about Please Hold. Like, it was telling me something, and it's like, hey, were you listening? Were you really listening, Rose? Look at me. Were you listening? Look at my patterns. Look at the nuances of color. Look at that slight movement. Feel the weight. Feel the lift inside your body. And is it watching me get uncomfortable because I didn't listen? And then close my eyes and go, oh yeah. And then come through to the other side. I hope those pieces watch us all wake up one by one, because they're watching me go through all that I'm going through, and they've seen so much of me. And when I let them go into the world, I was, telling Arden, like, I don't like to micromanage where they go because I trust them. I trust the curators. I trust the people who support them on their journeys. I trust those who invite them into their homes. But most of all, I trust those sculptures. Who am I to know who they are and where they're going, where they're meant to go, who they're supposed to talk to? Because there's somebody they're headed to go talk to, and I don't know who that is. Who am I to know that? My responsibility is my own relationship to them until that moment where I go, thank you for what you have taught me about myself and blessings on your journey to build relationship with the world around you. Does that answer?
But I like what you said about your responsibility. And I think that that's an interesting kind of, I want to talk about this idea of responsibility because your work is so much more than the final product. It's experience, it's intuition, it's process. You both speak so much about process and kind of exposing the innards of that, showing the seam lines and, you're always showing us these process videos, these behind the scenes moments. And I wonder, like, this idea of responsibility, it also, how do we see that into, basically, how do viewers relate to this? How are they able to get all of this information? And does it matter if they don't? How do you feel about your viewership? And how do they, how do they build a relationship with your work? Yeah.
My work. Well, I want to elaborate a little bit on Rose's. We come from a culture that inanimate objects are seen as having life. So the clay itself is a living entity. So that's why, like, a lot of my figures depict Mother Earth as a woman sitting there in a sculpture form, but literally she is alive as Earth, because that's Mother Earth. So it's living, it's alive. I always view my sculptures as beings or babies or entities that are trying to come through me because they want to exist or they want to be seen. So when I think of your question about what do they see, it's like, well, first of all, they see a world they want to come into, or they wouldn't have come through me as an artist. So they want to be here. They want to tell their story. And in that telling their story, they're trying to talk to you. Somebody's there talking. So when you say, what does my viewers, it's like, no, they are their own being. I just happen to give birth to them, or help them get here. I hope the viewer can talk to them because that's what they're here to do. They're here trying to talk to you. And mine have a tendency towards a lot of emotion. And because I was a child that needed a way to communicate my emotional thoughts and stuff as a child, that was a language I was open to receiving. I think that's why they came through me. But I also think that, wow, what an amazing thing to have been a child without language. And yet these sculptures brought me a language that is universal among humans. So they can actually talk to anybody around the world because if you have emotions, you understand them. It's like, I know how that feels, And so they're talking to you through an emotional language. So, that's what I think or feel.
I mean, you can tell me, you can say anything you want.
I was just thinking about responsibility and accountability.
Right.
And I feel like I've been thinking about, my mom raised us, growing our food, killing the animals we're going to eat, right? Oh. And so I was really aware. I think I was grown to be really aware how things work, how to sew your clothes, how to fix your car, how to grow your food, how to support yourself in that way. That I was really aware of the mutual relationship with the world around us, and I think that I've been hyper aware of our human existence, right, in this current global context, and how disconnected we are with where we come from, where things come from, where our food comes from, how that feels, like how it feels to eat, to the root of that plant got hurt when you plucked it, right? There's something, and I think often about responsibility and accountability, and I think so much, I've spent a lot of time thinking about the ecological impact, environmental impact of art making itself, and how we in the art world, we use up a lot of resources. I don't like the word resources. We are taking a lot from our family of the world. Trees died for the work to get here. Clay, if I'm using commercial clay, it's coming from open pit mines. If I fire it in a kiln, I'm using so much fossil fuels to bring that clay to temperature. And I want so badly for all that gave their life to me to bring that being into this world, that being goes and does a lot of work to make change in the world, to, in a sense, do it justice. To make all that we take, all that we're given, and we are not gracious for. Because I think there's a difference between what we use and what we're given and are not grateful for. That we are not doing that, we're not doing that holistically or seeing the full circle of our beingness on this planet. And so when I think about responsibility and accountability, I have struggled with shame. I have struggled with guilt. I have struggled with I shouldn't be here if I'm just a virus on this planet, right? Often think those things. And I think about, in a sense, my responsibility is to find my way back to the divine truth that guides my feet in the right way. And I want to call it faith. And I want to call it love. And that accountability and responsibility starts looking like consciousness. It starts looking like a way of hearing and feeling and seeing and being in the world that is in a state of knowing, that's in a state of connection where we're able to feel all that information, and it is able to teach us how to take the next step, how to be in the world. And I'm telling you this because I make so many mistakes every single day. And I think the more I listen and the more I feel and the more I'm aware of that which I'm looking for, the more I realize I'm messing up. And I find it so beautiful because it's like I'm looking for those lessons, and it's the asking is bringing them to me. And if I'm able to build the muscle of navigating that challenge and navigating that discomfort, that I'm actually growing faster and faster. And that's how it feels, right? And that would be my answer to like what is responsibility and accountability within art making. And what is the difference between art and life when we get to that point of awareness, right? It is this. This is what our creation is doing, is this moment.
I wanted to go back to what you were saying about the experience when we're looking at your work. And I think there's a universality in between both of your works with emotion and then also this idea of listening and being conscious and being guests on this planet, like you've also mentioned in the interview, and just being conscious of where we are and who we are and the space that we take up. And some of that is universal, but some of that is also very much for now. And so I would like to know, where do you see your works in 40 or 50 years from now? Like, so we were having this conversation, some of us are doomsdayers and some of us are optimists about the planet and the future of the planet, but what do you think that they'll be looking at, or how we'll be interpreting it in 40 to 50 years, and what would you want to happen to your work then?
Mama said. I'm nervous to answer that question. I'm nervous to answer that question because I feel like what we project actually might come true. And so when I say that, I feel nervous. Do I present something that is optimistic, and then I'm scared of the greatness that I just saw? And I'm scared that if I say it out loud, it won't come true because it was beautiful, right? And if I say, the cockroaches will be coming out their eyes, and that's all that's left in the world, it's like, wah, 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 wah. There's like, radiation and nothing left, right? I don't want to say that either, but I just did. So take that out of your heads. Just like, let that go, let that go. That's all gone. Men in Black. Forget what you just saw. So I worry about that projection, right? But how do I do this gracefully so that I'm not putting something out there, not calling something, and also not, and I will have to look at my own fear of thinking of beauty and feeling like if I see something super beautiful that it'll push it away because it's too good to be true. So what I'm going to say is, in 40 to 50 years, the work is going to look out and it's going to see peace. And not the political kind of peace. I'm talking about presence. I'm talking about looking at people, and our values are so grounded and solid that we are not playing games with our heads. We are clear with where we're going. We know each other, and that knowing guides us through our world deliciously. And I feel safe saying that because I feel like I could see what that looks like. But I'm scared to build that visual because, like I said.
Well, the fact that you work with clay is, you work with, it comes from the earth and it can return to the earth.
Yeah, and
that's
maybe
such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I mean, like, ideally, the work goes back to the earth and it doesn't become, a plastic bottle floating through the ocean. But, maybe there's just someone walking along the dirt road, bare feet, sun's out, and they turn, and hey, there's this being looking out. And they see each other now. What's up? Like
they're down.
Hey, and it's like, hey. And there's a hey, and there's a hey. And then it goes like, and it bounces back and forth, and there's this moment of like, whoa. Right? And they felt that hey through every cell of their being, and it transformed them, and all of a sudden they were like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. Thanks, man, that was awesome. You know what I mean? Like, that.
Love it. I don't know where you just went, but
like that.
I love it.
I really went there.
Can't wait for the future.
All right,
lots to
Pamela
look forward to. Do you want to say anything, Roxanne?
I'm gonna answer after.
I know, that's a hard act to follow.
I'm thinking this
40 or
microwave.
50 years, I'll probably be dead. No, I had an image of kind of a little bit similar in that I thought of, that I probably won't be here, but how would I like my work being seen? And I thought of my mother's pots and my grandmother's pots, and then further back even. And, where we live, we have ruins of our ancestors. And if you walk around the ruins, you'll often find pot shards. And the pot shards have, designs on them. And often I'll, pick one up and look at it and realize, this might have been my great-great-great-great-great-grandmother who made this pot. Or, somebody's grandma made this pot. And had a whole story, a whole life that happened. And sometimes I think, their grandkid probably went down to get water and broke it on the way home, or whatever happened. But I think someday my pieces will be shards too. And I think, wow, what would that be like to be walking along and you see part of a face, because they're not just pots, they're sculptures of human forms, and you pick up a piece of face and it's like, looking at you, and it'd be pretty amazing to go, hey, I know what that feels like, and I still feel that way. So it's still doing its job, even 100 years from now, it'll be 200 years from now, people will maybe relate, and I think that's pretty cool. I think that would be a good thing.
See a little toe sticking up. I see that. I'm gonna let Jody take it from here. You want to add two questions? I think. Sorry to do that, but we are running low on time. You can't. Your mic doesn't work.
Take the
Okay.
communal mic.
I got it. Thanks. There's a lot of questions, but I think there's some about, you touched on it a little bit, both of you, with your sort of eyes open, but I think there's a couple of questions that I'll combine. People want to know more about the armless figures for you, Rose, and I think people want to know from you, Roxanne, more about the hands and the eyes. So I know there's a lot of humor in your work as well. So you talked, Rose, about them having a sense of being, and I heard you in your talk that they didn't have arms because they were more about being than doing. Can you say a little bit more about that, please?
It initially started because I was trying to sort of push the vessel nature of them, that a pot has a foot, a belly, a shoulder, a lip. And here I'm making something with a foot, a shoulder, a belly, a lip. And in a sense, the shoulder just became, I started putting handles on them. So they were very much like actually functional vessels, and the idea was like, this is utilitarian. This is actually for use, and the use is it's got a job to do, and that job is to be a vessel of intention. And so the handles were like, get a handle, get a grip on this piece, right? That's very clear, like me trying to make that reference to a jug, right? Like a clay vessel. And then I started hanging clay beads from those shoulders to represent arms, and the arms became moments of grace and adornment rather than active engagement. And I really liked that feeling, and I started just deleting the arms altogether because it took away that doing. And for me, I have so much put my worth on how much I can do and accomplish. And if you take that away, then the work that's being done is more internal, is more of a spiritual, psychological, or self-aware nature. And I feel like that evolution, and sometimes I still include arms because there are things to be done. For instance, in the show, there's the piece Two Selves, and the smaller being, the larger being has no arms. The smaller being is actively reaching with all parts of its being. And that I use the arms and legs to portray. So when they're necessary, they're there. Oftentimes I won't gender them necessarily. I won't include hair. Things that don't feel like they're important to what I'm trying to say is not included. So if there is something included, senses are super important. Ears, eyes, nose, mouth, that like the way we perceive, our perception's important. Those parts are included. And they always have gauges, so it's super important apparently.
What about the elongated neck? Because that was a question too.
The elongated neck, because they're getting perspective, and similar to the gauges, you know, there's more of a canvas for pattern, for application, for engagement. I make the work. Once it's fired and assembled, I sit there and I look at them and I say, who are you? And sometimes I'll dress them, I'll put something on it, and they're like, they don't like this. And I have to take it off because it doesn't feel right, and I'll have to fix it. So it's a lot of listening to the piece, but when I'm building them, oftentimes I'm like, who are you? What do you want to look like? Who do you want to be? And I'm sort of managing, as I am the tool that they are using to come into being, and I'm managing what I know about engineering and clay and the pieces that need to come together in order to make them exist in the world with their aesthetic truth and their reality that they're trying to bring into existence of who they are, like you said.
Fabulous. I think we're so over time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys all. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a treat. I want to encourage you to go look at the exhibition and take it all in. As you enter the exhibition, we encourage you to slow down, take pause, and enter with care. Thank you.